At night, villagers gathered, and lit the fire. Someone would cry out, "That woman, she's a witch," and without question, everyone would nod. Once the flames began to rise, there was no turning back. A scream would pierce the night, and vanish into the smoke. Medieval Europe, a time shrouded in shadow and fear. At the center of that darkness, were those they called witches, but were they truly servants of the devil, or were they simply people? We fail to understand. In that time, a witch was often just a poor woman, an old widow, or someone with knowledge. Others feared, they practiced healing, understood nature, and lived by reason more than superstition, and perhaps that was exactly what made them dangerous. To the church, they were called disciples of Satan. Villagers believed they spoke to animals, flew through the night, and consorted with demons. Belief, born from fear, and fear, always ended in blood. That fear was ignited for real, by a single book. In 1487, Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, was published, a manual of witch hunting, a handbook for death. It claimed most witches were women, that women were weak by nature, and easily corrupted by the devil. This wasn't just ink on paper, it was a weapon of the Middle Ages, a license to kill, wrapped in scripture. People began to suspect anyone, keeping a cat, especially a black one, was enough to be accused. Using herbs to heal, knowing about childbirth or menstruation, such women were labeled dangerous. What they possessed was called the devil's knowledge, but it wasn't. It was centuries of wisdom, passed down from woman to woman, now branded as evil. The world simply wasn't ready for that truth. A witch trial was never about justice, it was a theater of fear. It began with suspicion, built on torture, and ended in death. The more a woman declared her innocence, the more they believed she was guilty. There was the water test: tie her and toss her into the river. If she sank, she was human undead. If she floated, she was a witch and burned. To find the witch's mark, they stripped her naked, locked her in a cold room, and tortured her for hours, sometimes days, sleep deprived, starved, until she confessed she was something less than human. The moment she admitted it, her fate was sealed. She was bound to a stake, in the town square, and thrown into the flames. The crowd would say, "Justice has been served," but someone, in a whisper, would say, "We are the evil ones." Why did they kill so many women? Was it really because they were witches, or did they want to erase something else? The Middle Ages were an age of anxiety. The Black Death claimed a third of Europe. Famine and war were constant. When death had no explanation, people demanded someone to blame. The church gave them an answer: witches, and society followed, willingly. At the center of this blame, stood women, women who knew, women who stood alone, women who dared to speak back. They had no place, in a world ruled by men. Salem, Massachusetts, 2 young girls fell ill. They cried out, "A witch cursed me," and with that single sentence, a frenzy began. Over 200 people were accused, 20 were executed, some were killed, simply because they looked or lived differently. Even refusing to plead for mercy was seen as a sign of demonic pride. Eventually, people began to see the madness. The Salem witch trials ended within a year, but the dead never returned, and the ashes of their memory were scattered in the wind. Even now, their truths remain buried. So ask yourself, who were the real witches? A woman whispering to herself, under the moonlight, the hand that healed, with wild herbs, the woman who dared to raise her voice? Or maybe, the true witches were the ones who lied and condemned them. Thousands of women died under the name witch. They were scholars, healers, leaders, mothers, lovers. Today, we dress as them on Halloween. We laugh, but behind that laughter still burns a truth, a forgotten flame that refuses to go out. Were they witches, or were they the mirror of a truth we feared to face? What do you believe? Let us know in the comments. If you're drawn to dark truths and hidden conspiracies, like this one, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. The real story is just beginning.